The stars had never looked so cold. Admiral Way stood on the bridge of the UES Defender and watched the tactical display with growing dread. 500 red dots filled the screen. Each dot was an enemy warship. Each warship carried enough firepower to destroy a city, and all of them were heading toward Earth. "Admiral, the hegemony fleet will reach firing range in 6 hours, said Lieutenant Park. Her voice was steady, but could see her hands shaking slightly. Nodded slowly. He had commanded humanity's defense fleet for 15 years. He had fought pirates in the asteroid belt. He had protected mining colonies from raiders, but nothing had prepared him for this. Nothing could prepare anyone for this. The hegemony was a coalition of 12 alien species that controlled most of the galaxy. They had watched humanity spread across the solar system for the past 2 centuries. They had watched humans build colonies on Mars and the moons of Jupiter. They had watched and they had waited. And now they had decided that humanity had grown too ambitious. The message from the hegemony had been simple: surrender unconditionally or face extinction. The United Earth Council had refused. They had spoken of human rights and dignity. They had spoken of freedom and self-determination. The hegemony had not bothered to respond. They had simply sent their fleet. Looked at his own forces on the display. 47 warships. That was everything humanity had. 47 against 500. It was not a battle. It was an execution. "Get me a channel to all ships," said. "Channel open, Admiral." Took a deep breath. "This is Admiral to all vessels. You have all seen the enemy fleet. You all know the odds. I will not lie to you. Today might be our last day. But I want you to remember something. We are fighting for our families. We are fighting for our children. We are fighting for everyone who has ever looked up at the stars and dreamed of reaching them. Whatever happens today, let us make sure the universe remembers that humanity did not go quietly." He closed the channel. The bridge was silent. Everyone was thinking about their loved ones back on Earth. Everyone was preparing to die. Far from the main fleet, in a high orbit around Earth's moon, something stirred. The Luna Historical Preserve was a collection of old spacecraft that humanity had kept as monuments to their past. There were ancient rockets from the first space age. There were early colony ships that had carried settlers to Mars. And tucked away in a corner, almost forgotten, was a ship that did not belong there. The UES Argonaut looked like a relic. Its hull was and pitted from countless battles fought long ago. Its design was strange, different from any other human vessel. Most people who visited the preserve walked past it without a second glance. The information plaque said it was a frigate from humanity's early expansion period. It said the ship was decommissioned and no longer functional. The plaque was wrong. Deep inside the Argonaut, lights began to flicker on. Systems that had been dormant for 300 years started to wake up. Power flowed through conduits that looked impossibly advanced for a ship supposedly built in humanity's past. And in the central command chamber, a figure stirred. Commander Sarah Vance opened her eyes. The cryogenic pod around her hissed as it released its seals. She took a gasping breath, feeling the cold leave her lungs as warm air filled them. For a long moment, she simply lay there remembering. 300 years. She had been asleep for 300 years. "Commander," a calm, synthetic voice filled the chamber. "The awakening protocol has been triggered." Sarah sat up slowly. Her body ached from centuries of stillness. "Report, Arya. What triggered the protocol?" Arya was the Argonaut's artificial intelligence. She had been created using technology that humanity was not supposed to possess. Technology that came from a time in human history that very few people knew about. "Sensors have detected a hostile fleet of approximately 500 vessels approaching Earth," Arya said. "Earth's defense forces consist of 47 vessels. Probability of successful defense is less than 2%. Sarah closed her eyes. They had failed. All those years ago, they had fought so hard to protect humanity's future. They had sacrificed so much. And now, 3 centuries later, the same threat had returned. "Wake the others," Sarah said. One by one, the crew of the Argonaut emerged from their cryogenic sleep. There were 37 of them in total. Each one was a veteran of a war that history had forgotten. Each one carried knowledge that the modern world did not possess. Lieutenant James Torres was the weapons officer. He was a tall man with a scar running down his left cheek. He had earned that scar fighting the first hegemony invasion, the invasion that no one remembered. Doctor was the chief engineer. She understood the Argonaut systems better than anyone. Systems that used principles of physics that modern human scientists were only beginning to discover. Captain Michael was second in command. He had served with Sarah since the beginning, since the day they discovered the truth about humanity's place in the universe. They gathered on the bridge, still shaking off the effects of cryogenic sleep. Through the viewports, they could see Earth hanging in the blackness of space. It looked peaceful. It had no idea what was coming. 300 years, Michael said quietly. I had hoped we would never need to wake up. So did I, Sarah replied. But hope does not win wars. Arya, show me the tactical situation. A holographic display appeared in the center of the bridge. The hegemony fleet was clearly visible, a massive swarm of red dots moving steadily toward the blue dot that represented Earth. The small cluster of green dots near Earth was the human defense fleet. The hegemony has sent a standard extinction fleet, Arya reported. Composition includes 200 destroyers, 150 cruisers, 100 battleships, and 50 Dominion command vessels. Their commander is High Admiral of the Dominion species. Sarah said the name with cold recognition. He commanded the fleet that attacked Earth 300 years ago. The same individual, Arya confirmed. Dominion species have natural exceeding 500 years. Michael's hands tightened into fists. He came to finish what he started. And we are going to stop him, Sarah said. Again, Arya, begin full system activation. Torres, start warming up the weapons. I need the engines ready in 1 hour. The crew moved to their stations with practiced efficiency. Despite 3 centuries of sleep, they had not forgotten their training. They had not forgotten their purpose. In orbit around Earth, Admiral received an unexpected communication. Admiral, we are detecting an energy signature from the Luna Historical Preserve, Lieutenant Park reported. It appears to be a spacecraft powering up. Frowned, the preserve is just old museum ships. None of them are operational. The signature is definitely a ship coming online, sir. Our sensors cannot identify the power source. The readings are strange. Strange how? Park studied her console with confusion on her face. The energy levels are higher than anything in our fleet, higher than anything I have ever seen. Sir, this ship, whatever it is, has more power than all 47 of our vessels combined. Before could respond, a new voice came through the communication system. It was calm and confident. United Earth Fleet, this is Commander Sarah Vance of the UES Argonaut. We are here to help. Exchanged a bewildered look with his bridge crew. UES Argonaut, I have never heard of that vessel. Who are you? That is a long story, Admiral, and we do not have much time. What matters right now is that we have fought these enemies before. We know how to beat them. Will you accept our assistance? Thought quickly. He had 47 ships against 500. He had no chance of victory. And now a mysterious ship was offering help, a ship with impossible power readings. I am listening, Commander. What do you propose? Have your fleet fall back to defensive positions around Earth. Protect the planet. Let us handle the hegemony. You could not hide his disbelief. 1 ship against 500. We have done it before. There was absolute certainty in Sarah's voice. Did not understand it, but something about her tone made him believe it. Very well, Commander. We will support you however we can. Thank you, Admiral. Arya, take us out of the preserve. The Argonaut's engines came to life. To the observers watching from Earth and the defense fleet, it looked like a miracle. The old, weathered frigate rose from its place among the museum ships and began to move. As it did, its hull seemed to change. The scars and pitting faded away, revealing armor that gleamed with an inner light. Systems that had been hidden behind false panels emerged. Weapon ports that had been sealed for 3 centuries opened. The Argonaut had disguised itself as a relic. Now it was showing its true face. On the bridge of the Dominion command ship, High Admiral received the report with amusement. A single human vessel has broken from the main fleet, his tactical officer reported. It is approaching our formation alone. Was a Dominion, a tall being with gray skin and 4 arms. His species had ruled their corner of the galaxy for 10,000 years. They viewed younger species like humans as barely more than insects. One ship let out a rumbling laugh. These humans are sending one ship against my fleet. They are even more pathetic than I thought. Admiral, our sensors are having difficulty reading the vessel. Its design does not match any known human ship class. It does not matter what kind of ship it is. It will be destroyed like all the others. Ignore it. Continue our approach to the planet. The hegemony fleet pressed forward. 500 warships in perfect formation, carrying enough weapons to burn the surface of Earth to glass. They had done it to other worlds before. They would do it again. Sarah watched the enemy fleet grow larger on the. Her heart was racing, but her hands were steady. She had done this before. She could do it again. Arya status report. All systems at full power. Weapons charged, shields at maximum. The crew is at battle stations. Good. Sarah turned to look at her crew. They were ready. After 300 years of waiting, they were finally going to finish what they started. Everyone listen to me. The modern world has forgotten who we are. They have forgotten what we did. They have forgotten the truth about humanity's history. Today, we remind them. Today, we remind everyone. She turned back to face and the massive fleet that waited there. Arya, open a channel to the hegemony fleet. Channel open. Sarah spoke clearly, knowing that her words would reach every ship in the enemy formation. This is Commander Sarah Vance of the United Earthship Argonaut to High Admiral and the hegemony fleet. 300 years ago, you came to destroy humanity. You failed. We drove you back. We made you promise to never return. You broke that promise. So now I am going to remind you why you were afraid to come back. On the Dominion command ship was no longer laughing. His 4 hands gripped his command chair as a memory stirred in his ancient mind. A memory he had tried very hard to forget. That name, he whispered, I know that name. His tactical officer looked at him with confusion. Admiral. The Argonaut, it cannot be. We destroyed it, we watched it die. Admiral, what is the Argonaut? Did not answer. He was staring at the single ship on his. A ship that should not exist. A ship from a battle that the hegemony had erased from their own records because it was too shameful to remember. All ships, commanded, his voice tight with sudden fear. Target that vessel, destroy it immediately. 100 weapons locked onto the Argonaut. Energy beams and missiles launched from the front ranks of the hegemony fleet. Enough firepower to destroy a small moon streaked toward the lone human ship. Sarah did not flinch. Arya, show them what we can do. The Argonaut moved. It moved in a way that no ship should be able to move. One moment it was directly in the path of the incoming fire. The next moment it was somewhere else entirely. The weapons that had been aimed at it hit empty space. And then the Argonaut fired back. A beam of light erupted from the frigate's bow. It was not like any weapon the modern world had ever seen. It passed through the shields of the first destroyer as if they did not exist. The destroyer exploded in a ball of fire that consumed 2 more ships beside it. The Argonaut fired again, and again. Each shot destroyed another enemy vessel. The ancient frigate danced through the hegemony formation like a ghost, untouchable and unstoppable. On Earth, billions of people watched the battle on their screens. They had expected to see their fleet destroyed. They had expected to see their world burn. Instead, they watched a single ship tear through the enemy like a blade through paper. Admiral stared at his tactical display in disbelief. What is that ship? No one could answer him. No one understood what they were seeing. In the space between Earth and the hegemony fleet, the Argonaut continued its assault. 12 enemy ships had already been destroyed. 20, 30. The massive alien formation was starting to scatter as panic spread through their ranks. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. They remembered now. The hegemony remembered what humanity was truly capable of. "This is just the beginning," she said. "Tors, charge the main weapon." Tors looked at her with wide eyes. "The main weapon? Commander, if we use that, we will reveal everything." "I know, but these people deserve to know the truth. Humanity deserves to know who they really are." Sarah turned back to where 500 warships were now trying desperately to regroup against a single frigate. 300 years ago, the hegemony attacked Earth. They expected to find primitive humans just beginning to reach the stars. Instead, they found something else entirely. They found what humanity had once been, what humanity could become again. Today, the universe remembers. She gave the order. "Arya, activate the Genesis cannon." Deep within the Argonaut, systems that had been sealed for 3 centuries came online. The ship itself seemed to pulse with power as energy that conventional physics gathered at its core. High Admiral saw the readings on his sensors. His gray skin went pale. "No," he whispered, "that is impossible. That weapon was destroyed." But it had not been destroyed. It had only been hidden. Hidden along with the truth about humanity's past, hidden until the day it would be needed again. The day had come. On Earth, across the solar system, throughout the watching hegemony fleet, everyone held their breath. Something was about to change. Something fundamental about the universe was about to be revealed. And at the center of it all, the ancient frigate Argonaut prepared to show humanity who they truly were. The Genesis cannon was not just a weapon. It was a statement. It was proof of everything the hegemony had tried to hide for 300 years. Sarah watched the energy readings climb on her console and remembered the day she first learned the truth about humanity's history. She had been a young officer then, stationed on a survey ship in the outer reaches of the solar system. They had found something buried beneath the ice of a distant moon, something ancient, something human, and that discovery had changed everything. "Genesis cannon at 70% charge," Arya reported. "Enemy fleet is attempting to reform their attack formation." "Let them try," Sarah said. "It will not help." Outside the Argonaut, the hegemony fleet was in chaos. 34 of their ships had already been destroyed. The rest were scrambling to understand what was happening. Their weapons could not track the ancient frigate. Their shields could not stop its attacks. Everything they knew about human technology was wrong. On the Dominion command ship, High Admiral was shouting orders. His 4 arms waved frantically as he tried to organize his fleet. 300 years ago, he had been a junior officer during the first invasion. He had watched the hegemony's greatest armada broken by a handful of human ships. Ships that used technology the hegemony could not explain or counter. After that defeat, the hegemony had spent 50 years trying to understand what had happened. They had studied the wreckage of their own fleet. They had captured human prisoners and questioned them, but they found nothing. The humans who knew the secret had disappeared. Their ships had vanished. All records had been erased. It was as if the technology had never existed. The hegemony had eventually concluded that the advanced human ships had been destroyed in the battle. They decided that the threat was over. They sealed all records of the first invasion and pretended it never happened. They waited 250 years before trying again. They had been wrong. The ships had not been destroyed. The humans who knew the secret had not died. They had simply been waiting. Admiral's tactical officer shouted, "We are detecting a massive energy buildup in the human vessel. Power levels are exceeding our sensor capabilities." Felt cold fear run through his body. He knew what that energy buildup meant. He had seen it before. "All ships," he commanded, "full retreat now." But it was too late. The Argonaut released the Genesis cannon. A pulse of brilliant white energy erupted from the ship and expanded outward in all directions. It moved faster than any conventional weapon. It washed over the hegemony fleet like a wave washing over sand. The pulse did not destroy the enemy ships. It did something worse. It disabled them. Every ship caught in the pulse went dark. Their weapons stopped working. Their engines failed. Their shields collapsed. 500 warships became 500 pieces of drifting metal. On the bridge of the Dominion command ship, watched his displays go black one by one. Emergency lighting flickered on, casting everything in a dim red glow. The great warship that had brought him to Earth was now completely powerless. "What happened?" his tactical officer asked in a trembling voice. "The Genesis cannon," replied. His voice was hollow with despair. "It creates an energy pulse that disrupts all technology within its range. Our entire fleet has been neutralized." "But how? Our ships are shielded against electromagnetic attacks." "This is not electromagnetic. It is something else entirely, something we do not understand, something humans should not have." On the Argonaut, Sarah watched the results of the Genesis cannon with satisfaction. The weapon was exhausting. It would take hours to recharge. But it had done its job. The hegemony fleet was helpless. "All enemy ships have been disabled," Arya confirmed. "No power signatures detected. Life support on enemy vessels appears to be functioning on emergency reserves only." "Good," Sarah said. "We do not want them to die, not yet. We need them to deliver a message." She turned to Michael. "Take us closer to the command ship. I want to speak with directly." The Argonaut glided through the drifting wreckage of the hegemony fleet. It passed by darkened destroyers and silent cruisers. Alien crews pressed their faces against viewports, watching the ancient human ship pass. Their eyes were filled with fear. Admiral watched from the bridge of the Defender. His own fleet had been outside the range of the Genesis cannon. They were still fully operational, but he had no intention of interfering. Whatever was happening, whatever that mysterious ship was, understood that he was witnessing something historic. "Sir, are you seeing this?" Lieutenant Park whispered. "That single frigate just disabled the entire enemy fleet." "I see it," replied. "I just do not believe it." "Admiral, we are receiving a transmission from the Argonaut. They are requesting a link to our global communication network. They want to broadcast something to all of Earth." Considered for a moment. He did not know who Commander Vance was. He did not understand the technology she commanded, but she had just saved humanity from extinction. That had earned her some trust. "Grant the request." On Earth, every screen flickered. Every broadcast was interrupted. Billions of people stopped what they were doing and watched as a face appeared. It was a woman with gray-streaked hair and eyes that had seen too much. She wore an unfamiliar uniform with a symbol on the shoulder that no one recognized. "People of Earth," Sarah began. "My name is Commander Sarah Vance. What I am about to tell you will be difficult to believe, but it is the truth, a truth that has been hidden from you for 300 years. She paused, gathering her thoughts. "Humanity did not develop space travel on our own. 2,000 years ago, our ancestors were contacted by an advanced alien civilization called the Architects. The Architects were dying. Their species was nearly extinct. They chose humanity to carry on their legacy. They gave us their technology. They gave us their knowledge. They made us their heirs." Across the world, people listened in stunned silence. For 500 years, humanity used that technology to build an empire among the stars. We colonized hundreds of worlds. We became one of the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. But we were not alone. The hegemony saw us as a threat. They did not want a new power rising to challenge their control. So they attacked. Sarah's expression hardened. The First War was brutal. The hegemony came with overwhelming force just as they did today, but our technology was superior. We defeated them. We drove them back. We made them promise to never return. And then we made a terrible decision. She looked down, pain visible on her face. Our leaders believed that the architect technology was too dangerous. They feared it would eventually destroy us, so they decided to hide it. They sealed away the ships. They erased the records. They used special technology to block memories from the entire human population. Within a generation, no one remembered that we had ever been anything more than primitives just learning to reach the stars. Doctor appeared beside Sarah on the screen. The engineer looked exhausted but determined. "I know this sounds impossible," said, "but the proof is all around you. Have you ever wondered why human technology advanced so quickly over the past few centuries? Why we sometimes make discoveries that seem to come from nowhere? It is because the knowledge is still inside us. The memory blocks are imperfect. The truth keeps trying to break through." Sarah continued. "A small group of us chose to remember. We could not stop our leaders from hiding the truth, but we refused to let it die completely. We put ourselves in cryogenic sleep, along with the Argonaut and a few other ships. We programmed our systems to wake us if the hegemony ever returned. We hoped they never would. We were wrong." She stepped closer to the camera. "The fleet you see drifting helplessly in space is the same hegemony that tried to destroy us 300 years ago. They have come to finish what they started, but I am here to tell you that they will fail, just as they failed before. Because humanity is not the primitive species they believe us to be. We are the heirs of the architects. We are the children of a civilization that spanned the stars. And it is time for us to remember who we are." The broadcast ended. Silence fell across the world. Then slowly the questions began. On the Argonaut, Sarah closed the communication channel and turned to her crew. "That was the easy part," she said. "Now comes the hard part. We need to speak with." The Argonaut positioned itself directly in front of the disabled Dominion command ship. Sarah activated the ship's short-range communication system. Even with their main power disabled, the enemy vessel would be able to receive the signal. "Hi, Admiral," Sarah said. "I know you can hear me. Do you remember me?" There was a long pause, then his voice came through the speakers. It was rough and tired. "I remember you, Commander Vance. I remember watching you destroy my flagship 300 years ago. I thought you died in that battle." "I did not die. I waited. I waited for this day." "To humiliate me again?" "No, to give you one final chance." Laughed bitterly. "A chance? You have disabled my entire fleet. You have revealed secrets that will shake the hegemony to its core. What chance can you possibly offer me?" "The chance to leave peacefully. Take your fleet and go. Tell the hegemony what you saw today. Tell them that humanity remembers. Tell them that if they ever come back, we will not be so merciful." "Merciful?" His voice rose with anger. "You call this mercy? You have destroyed my career. You have destroyed my reputation. The hegemony will never trust me again." "That is not my concern. My concern is protecting my people. You came here to commit genocide, Admiral. You came here to burn our world and murder billions. The fact that you are still alive is the only mercy I am willing to offer. Take it or do not. The choice is yours." There was silence on the other end. Sarah waited patiently. She knew. She had studied him before the first invasion. He was proud and cruel, but he was also practical. He understood when he was beaten. "Very well," finally said. "We will leave. But do not think this is over. The hegemony will not forget this defeat. They will come back. And next time they will bring more than 500 ships. Then we will be ready. We have been preparing for this moment for 300 years. Do you really think we only have one ship?" Did not respond. "Arya," Sarah said, "begin restoring power to the enemy fleet. Engines and life support only. Keep their weapons disabled until they are outside the solar system." "Understood, Commander." Slowly, the lights began to come back on across the hegemony fleet. Ships that had been drifting helplessly started to regain control. One by one, they turned away from Earth and began the long journey back to hegemony space. Admiral watched them go. He still did not fully understand what had happened, but he understood enough to know that the universe had changed today. "Admiral," Lieutenant Park said, "the Argonaut is requesting permission to dock with the Defender. Commander Vance wants to speak with you in person." Permission granted. An hour later, Sarah Vance walked onto the bridge of the Defender. She looked even older and more tired in person than she had on the broadcast, but her eyes were sharp and alert, taking in everything around her. "Admiral," she said, extending her hand, "thank you for trusting us." Shook her hand. "I did not have much choice. You saved us all." "We saved ourselves. You and your fleet were prepared to die defending Earth. That courage matters. It matters more than you know." Gestured for her to sit down. There were so many questions he wanted to ask. He started with the most important one. "Is it true, everything you said in the broadcast, about the architects and the hidden history?" "Every word. I know it is a lot to accept." "It is impossible to accept. You are asking us to believe that everything we know about our own history is a lie." "Not a lie," Sarah said gently. "A forgotten truth. There is a difference. The people who hid this knowledge believed they were protecting humanity. They were wrong, but they were not evil." "Where are they now, the ones who made that decision?" "Dead, all of them. They did not put themselves in. They stayed behind to make sure the memory blocks held. They lived out their natural lives and died, keeping the secret to the end." Shook his head slowly. "And now you want to undo what they did. You want to restore all that lost knowledge." "I want to give humanity a choice. The technology of the architects is stored in the Argonauts' computers. The knowledge is there, waiting, but we cannot force people to accept it. This has to be humanity's decision." "What would happen if we accepted it? If we took back this technology?" Sarah smiled. It was the first time he'd seen her smile. "We would become what we were always meant to be. Not just a species struggling to survive among the stars. A civilization, a power, a force that even the hegemony would have to respect." "And if we refused?" "Then we would continue as we are. We would face whatever comes next with the technology we have now. It would be harder. The hegemony will return eventually, and they will be better prepared. But it would still be humanity's choice to make." Stood up and walked to the viewport. Outside, the stars stretched endlessly into the darkness. Somewhere out there, the hegemony fleet was retreating. Somewhere out there, countless alien civilizations were watching, waiting to see what humanity would do next. "The United Earth Council will need to make this decision," said. "It is too big for any one person." "I agree. Take all the time you need. The Argonaut and her crew will remain here to answer questions. The technology is not going anywhere." Sarah stood up to leave. At the door, she paused and looked back. "Admiral, there is one more thing you should know. The Argonaut is not the only ship we hid. There are others, dozens of them, hidden in places all across the solar system, waiting to be awakened." Stared at her. "Dozens." The people who wanted to preserve the truth knew that one ship might not be enough. They prepared for every possibility. Whatever humanity decides, we have options. She left the bridge, remained at the viewport staring out at the stars. The universe looked different now, bigger, more dangerous, but also full of possibility. On Earth, the debates had already begun. People argued in homes and offices and public squares. Some believed Commander Vance's story. Some thought it was an elaborate hoax. Some were terrified, some were excited, but everyone agreed on one thing: nothing would ever be the same again. In the Luna Historical Preserve, 3 more ships began to stir. Their systems hummed to life as signals from the Argonaut reached them. Crews that had been asleep for 3 centuries started the slow process of awakening. The ancient fleet was waking up. And across the galaxy, in the great council chambers of the hegemony, urgent messages were being sent. The humans had done it again. They had revealed their true power. They had proven that the defeats of 300 years ago had not been a mistake. The hegemony had a problem, and this time they would need a very different solution. High Admiral sat alone in his darkened quarters as his ship limped through space. His fleet of 500 had been reduced to helpless wrecks by a single vessel. His invasion had become the greatest military disaster in hegemony history. But was thinking beyond his own failure. He was thinking about what Commander Vance had said, about dozens of ships hidden across the human solar system, about technology that the hegemony still could not understand or counter. If the humans had kept such secrets hidden for 300 years, what else might they be hiding? What other surprises were waiting in the depths of their civilization? The answer, realized, was something the hegemony had never truly faced before: uncertainty. For 10,000 years, the hegemony had dominated the galaxy through superior numbers and firepower. They had crushed hundreds of young civilizations. They had never met an enemy they could not eventually overwhelm. But humanity was different. Humanity had secrets. Humanity had survived when they should have died. Humanity kept coming back, stronger each time. For the first time in his long life, wondered if the hegemony had finally met its match. And that terrified him more than any weapon ever could. 3 weeks had passed since the Battle of Earth. The hegemony fleet had retreated beyond the solar system. The ancient ships from the Luna Preserve were fully awake, and humanity was tearing itself apart trying to decide what to do next. Sarah Vance stood before the United Earth Council in their great assembly hall in Geneva. 200 representatives from every nation on Earth stared at her with a mixture of wonder and suspicion. She had spoken for hours, explaining the history that had been hidden. Now came the hard part. "Commander Vance," said Secretary General, "your story is extraordinary, but many here still have doubts. You are asking us to accept that our entire civilization is built on a lie." "Not a lie," Sarah replied patiently. She had said this many times already. "A forgotten truth, and I am not asking you to take my word for it. Come to the Argonaut, see the technology for yourself. Examine the records, test everything. I have nothing to hide." A Russian delegate stood up. His name was, and he had been one of the loudest voices of doubt. "Even if what you say is true, why should we trust you? You say a small group chose to remember, but who gave you the right to make that choice? Who decided that you would be the keepers of this secret?" "No one gave us the right," Sarah admitted. "We took it. We believed the decision to forget was wrong. We believed humanity had the right to know its own history. Were we right to make that choice? I do not know, but the choice has already been made. The secret is out. The question now is what humanity will do with it." The chamber erupted in argument. Delegates shouted at each other across the floor. Some wanted to embrace the architect technology immediately. Others wanted to destroy it. Most were simply confused, trying to understand a universe that had become much more complicated overnight. Secretary General called for order. When the chamber finally quieted, she spoke. "Commander Vance, let us set aside the question of the past for now. Tell us about the future. You said the hegemony will return. What should we expect?" Sarah nodded. This was the question that really mattered. The hegemony is not a single civilization. It is a coalition of 12 species, each with their own interests and agendas. Right now, they are in chaos. High Admiral's defeat has humiliated the Dominion species, who have led the hegemony for thousands of years. The other species are questioning their leadership. Does that mean they will not attack again? Asked a delegate from Brazil. No, it means they will take time to reorganize. My best estimate is that we have between 1 and 5 years before they return, but when they do come back, they will be prepared for us. They will have studied the Genesis canon. They will have developed countermeasures. They will bring a larger fleet with new weapons specifically designed to fight us. The chamber fell silent. The brief hope that the danger was over faded away. However, Sarah continued, we have advantages they do not expect. The Argonaut is not alone. We have 12 more ships hidden in the solar system. All of them are equipped with architect technology. Together, they form a fleet powerful enough to defend Earth against anything the hegemony can send. 12 ships, scoffed. They sent 500. Even with your advanced technology, how can 12 ships defeat a larger force? Because the hegemony relies on numbers. They have never faced an enemy with truly superior technology. The ships we have can move faster, hit harder, and survive longer than anything they possess. In a straight fight, one of our ships is worth 50 of theirs. Then why do you need us? Asked Secretary General. If your technology is so superior, why come to the council at all? Sarah paused before answering. This was the crucial moment. Because technology alone is not enough. The ships we have are 300 years old. Their crews are skilled, but there are fewer than 500 of us in total. We can defend Earth for now, but we cannot win a long war. For that, we need humanity to join us. We need to share our knowledge. We need to build new ships and train new crews. We need to become what we were meant to be. And if we refuse, then we will still defend you. We made a promise 300 years ago to protect humanity. We will keep that promise. But understand what refusing means. It means staying weak while our enemies grow stronger. It means hopping 12 ships will be enough forever. It means leaving our fate in the hands of others. The debate continued for hours. In the end, no decision was reached. The council agreed to send a delegation to inspect the Argonaut. They would examine the technology and the records. Then they would vote. Sarah accepted this outcome. She had not expected immediate agreement. Humanity needed time to adjust to its new reality. She just hoped the hegemony would give them enough time. Far away, in the central regions of hegemony space, a very different meeting was taking place. The 12 lords, the supreme rulers of the coalition, had gathered for the first time in over a century. They met in the Chamber of Unity, a vast space station that orbited a dying star. High Admiral stood before them in chains. The Dominion had been humiliated by his defeat. As punishment, the other lords had demanded his presence as a prisoner rather than a participant. The lord of the species spoke first. There were creatures, their voices a harsh clicking sound that translators rendered into speech. 500 ships, the largest fleet we have ever sent against a single world, and it was stopped by one vessel. How do you explain this? The humans have technology we do not understand, replied. He had stopped trying to defend himself. He knew his fate was sealed. The same technology they used 300 years ago. We thought it was destroyed. We were wrong. You were wrong, the Lord of the corrected. They were reptilian, their scales gleaming in the dim light. The Dominion assured us that the human threat was eliminated. The Dominion told us it was safe to return. The Dominion lied. We did not lie, said. We were deceived. The humans hid their true capabilities. They have been hiding them for centuries, waiting for us to return. Which makes them more dangerous than we ever realized, said the Lord of the. They were silicon-based, their bodies glowing with internal heat. These are not primitive creatures stumbling into space. These are survivors of the architect legacy. We should have recognized this long ago. The mention of the architects caused a ripple of unease through the chamber. Even after millions of years, the architects cast a long shadow over galactic history. They had been the most advanced civilization ever known. Their technology had shaped the galaxy. and then they had vanished, leaving only mysteries behind. The Lord of the Dominion, a massive figure named, finally spoke. He was ruler, and his shame at the defeat was obvious. The question is not what happened. The question is what we do now. The humans have revealed their true nature. They have weapons we cannot counter. If we do nothing, they will grow stronger. Eventually, they might become a threat to the hegemony itself. Then we destroy them completely, said the Lord. No more limited attacks, no more restraint. We gather every ship we have and burn their entire system to ash. That would take years to organize, the Lord pointed out. And if the humans have hidden surprises in their own system, they might have hidden them elsewhere. We could be walking into another trap. Then what do you suggest? The demanded. The Lord raised one glowing limb. I suggest we consider alternatives to direct military action. The humans have shown they can defeat our fleets, but fleets are not our only weapon. Explain, Lord commanded. The humans have just learned a terrible truth about their own history. Their society is in turmoil. They are divided about whether to embrace their heritage or reject it. We can use that division. You are talking about infiltration, said the Lord, spies, sabotage. I am talking about strategy. We cannot defeat the humans in open battle, not yet, but we can weaken them from within. We can encourage their doubts. We can turn them against each other, and when they are sufficiently weakened, we strike. The Lords considered this proposal. It was not the honorable approach. The hegemony prided itself on direct confrontation, on overwhelming force, but overwhelming force had failed. There is another option, Lord said slowly, one that none of us have mentioned. What option? Negotiation, peace. The chamber erupted in outrage. The Lords shouted over each other, declaring that peace with humans was impossible, unthinkable, a betrayal of everything the hegemony stood for. Lord waited for the noise to die down. I am not suggesting we make friends with them. I am suggesting we buy time. We negotiate a temporary peace. We use that peace to study their technology, to develop countermeasures, to prepare for the eventual war. Let them think they have won. Let them grow complacent. And then, when we are ready, we crush them completely. The Lords fell silent, considering this approach. It is deceptive, the Lord said finally, but it might work. The humans have no reason to trust us, but they also have no desire for continued war. They might accept peace if we offer it. And while they celebrate their victory, we prepare for their destruction, the Lord added. It is not honorable, but it is effective. One by one, the Lords agreed to the plan. They would send envoys to Earth. They would offer peace and recognition. They would make the humans believe the threat was over. And in the background, they would begin preparing for the true war to come. Listen to this with a heavy heart. He had fought humans twice now. He had lost twice. He knew something the Lords did not seem to understand. The humans were not fools. If the hegemony came offering peace, they would know it was a trap. They would smile and shake hands and sign treaties, and all the while they would be preparing their own countermeasures. The war between humanity and the hegemony was not ending. It was just entering a new phase, a phase of shadows and deception, a phase where the battlefield would be politics and intelligence rather than fleets and weapons. And in that kind of war, was not sure which side would win. On Earth, the Council's inspection team had arrived at the Argonaut. They were led by Dr. Ming, a physicist from Beijing, and included scientists, military officers, and political advisors from a dozen nations. They spent 3 days aboard the ancient ship, examining everything Commander Vance had promised to show them. The technology they found was beyond anything they had imagined. This power core, Doctor said, staring at a device that seemed to glow with an inner light. It is producing energy through a process I cannot even identify. It is not fusion. It is not antimatter. It is something else entirely. Smiled. She had been assigned to guide the scientific team. The architects called it crystalline resonance. They discovered that certain crystal structures, when properly aligned, can tap into the fundamental energy of spacetime itself. "That is impossible," said one of the other scientists. "Spacetime is not a power source. It is just the fabric of the universe." The architects thought differently. They believed the universe itself was alive with energy, waiting to be harvested. This technology is the result of that belief. Doctor shook his head in wonder. If we could understand this, if we could replicate it, the implications are staggering. Unlimited clean energy, engines that could travel between stars in days instead of years, weapons that— he stopped himself. Weapons that could defeat the hegemony, finished for him. Yes, that is the point. On another part of the ship, Admiral was inspecting the weapons systems with Lieutenant Torres. "The Genesis cannon is our most powerful weapon," Torres explained, "but it takes hours to recharge after each use. In a prolonged battle, we rely on these." He pointed to a bank of strange devices that looked like nothing had ever seen. "We call them resonance beams. They work on a similar principle to the power core. They disrupt the molecular bonds of any material they hit." "You mean they disintegrate things?" "Essentially. Armor, shields, hull plating. Nothing can resist them. The hegemony's defenses are designed to stop energy weapons and physical projectiles. They have no counter to resonance technology." Frowned. If these weapons are so effective, why did the hegemony not develop similar technology after the First War? They had 300 years to study what hit them. "Because they do not understand the principles behind it. The architects were millions of years more advanced than the hegemony. Their technology is based on a completely different understanding of physics. It would take the hegemony centuries more to even begin to grasp how it works." "But they will eventually," said. "Yes, eventually. That is why we cannot waste the advantage we have now. Every year we delay is a year for them to catch up." The inspection lasted a full week. By the end, even the most skeptical members of the team were convinced. The technology was real. The history was true. Humanity had once been something greater, and it could be again. But convincing the inspection team was one thing. Convincing all of humanity was another. Back on Earth, protests had erupted in dozens of cities. Some people demanded that the architect technology be shared immediately. Others insisted it should be destroyed. Religious groups declared it was the work of demons. Conspiracy theorists claimed it was all an elaborate hoax to control the population. Sarah watched the news feeds with growing concern. Time was running out. Every day that humanity spent fighting itself was a day the hegemony could use to prepare. Then the message arrived. "Commander Vance," Arya said, "we are receiving a transmission from outside the solar system. It appears to be from the hegemony." Sarah felt a chill run through her. "Put it through." A face appeared on the screen. It was not. This was a Dominion female, her gray skin smoother and her manner more refined than any warrior. "I am ambassador of the Dominion," the figure said. "I come bearing a message of peace from the 12 lords of the hegemony." Sarah kept her expression neutral. "I am listening. The hegemony recognizes that our recent conflict with humanity was a mistake. We did not understand your true nature. We did not know you were heirs to the architects. Now that we understand, we wish to make amends. We propose a formal peace treaty between our peoples, an end to hostilities, a new beginning." Sarah said nothing. "We ask only for a meeting," Ambassador continued. "A chance to discuss terms. We will come unarmed with a single diplomatic vessel. Surely, after all the blood that has been shed, this is worth trying." Sarah finally spoke. "I will relay your message to the United Earth Council. They will decide whether to accept your proposal. We appreciate your consideration. We await your response." The transmission ended. Sarah sat alone in the silence, thinking. The hegemony was offering peace. On the surface, it seemed like a miracle, but Sarah had been fighting these enemies for too long to believe in miracles. This was not an ending. It was a new kind of battle, and humanity was about to discover that the universe could be even more dangerous when it pretended to be friendly. She picked up her communicator and called Admiral. "Admiral, we need to talk. The war just got a lot more complicated." The hegemony's offer of peace divided humanity more than any debate about ancient technology. Some saw it as a chance to avoid further conflict. Others saw it as an obvious trap. The United Earth Council argued for weeks while the universe held its breath. Sarah Vance stood in her quarters aboard the Argonaut, looking at a photograph that had survived 300 years of cryogenic sleep. It showed a younger version of herself standing with a group of people. Her original crew, her friends. Most of them were gone now, lost in the first war against the hegemony. "You are troubled," Arya said. The AI's voice was soft, almost concerned. "The Council is going to accept the peace offer," Sarah replied. "I can see it coming. They want to believe the war is over. And you do not believe it. I know the hegemony. They do not surrender. They do not make peace with species they consider inferior. This offer is a strategy, not a surrender." "Then why not tell the Council directly?" Sarah sighed. "Because I have no proof, just instinct and experience. And right now humanity wants to believe in peace. They are tired of fear. They are tired of the constant threat. If I push too hard, they will stop listening to me entirely." The door to her quarters opened. Michael entered, his face grave. "Sarah, we have a problem, a big one." "What happened?" "One of our hidden ships has been discovered. The UES Guardian, the one we concealed in the asteroid belt. Someone leaked its location to the press. The Council is demanding we reveal the locations of all the other ships." Sarah closed her eyes. This was exactly what she had feared. The secret fleet was humanity's ultimate insurance policy. If the hegemony knew where all the ships were hidden, they could plan to neutralize them before any future attack. "Who leaked the information?" "We do not know yet, but there are factions on Earth who believe we are hiding too much. They want full transparency. They say humanity has a right to know about all the ships." "Humanity has a right to survive," Sarah said sharply. "If we reveal everything, we give the hegemony a blueprint for defeating us." "I know, but try explaining that to people who have just learned their entire history was hidden from them. Trust is not exactly abundant right now." Sarah thought quickly. The situation was spiraling out of control. She needed to do something to regain the initiative. "Arrange a meeting with Secretary General, private. Tonight, I have an idea." Later that evening, Sarah met with in a secure conference room in Geneva. The Secretary General looked exhausted. The past few weeks had aged her considerably. "Commander Vance, I assume you are here about the leaked ship location." "Partly, but I am also here about the peace offer. You are going to accept it, are you not?" Hesitated, then nodded. "The Council votes tomorrow. The majority will support accepting the hegemony's proposal. The people want peace. After centuries of struggling to survive in space, they have finally encountered a threat they cannot ignore. They want to believe it can be resolved through diplomacy." "And you, what do you believe?" "I believe we have no good options. If we accept peace, we might be walking into a trap. If we refuse, we guarantee continued conflict. Either way, humanity is at risk." Sarah leaned forward. What if there was a third option, a way to accept the peace while still preparing for the worst? "I am listening." "The hegemony wants to send an ambassador to Earth. Let them come. Sign whatever treaties they offer. Make a show of trusting them completely. But behind the scenes, we accelerate our preparations. We bring more ships online. We train more crews. We build a fleet that can defend against any betrayal." "You want us to deceive them." "I want us to survive. The hegemony is already deceiving us. They are using this peace offer to buy time for themselves. I am suggesting we do the same." Was quiet for a long moment. The council would never approve this openly. Too many members genuinely believe in the peace process. "Then do not tell them. Some things have to be done quietly. Some things have to be protected from politics." "You are asking me to lie to my own people." "I am asking you to protect them. There is a difference." The Secretary General stood and walked to the window. Outside, the lights of Geneva sparkled in the darkness. Millions of people going about their lives, unaware of the decisions being made in rooms like this one. "If I do this," said slowly, "and the hegemony turns out to be sincere, I will have undermined humanity's first real chance at peace with an alien civilization. And if they are not sincere, you will have saved us all." Turned back to face Sarah. Her expression was resolved. "Tell me what you need." Over the following months, a strange dual reality emerged. On the surface, humanity embraced peace. The hegemony ambassador arrived to great fanfare. Treaties were signed. Cultural exchanges were planned. News programs showed smiling alien faces and talked about a new era of cooperation. But beneath the surface, other things were happening. The hidden fleet was brought to full readiness. New ships were constructed in secret facilities on the dark side of the moon. Training programs produced thousands of personnel capable of operating architect technology. Defensive platforms were installed around Earth under the guise of civilian infrastructure. Sarah Vance coordinated all of it, working from the shadows while the world celebrated peace. Ambassador was intelligent and charming. She gave speeches about mutual understanding. She attended state dinners and laughed at human jokes. She made friends among Earth's elite. And every night, she sent encrypted reports back to the hegemony about everything she observed. The hegemony was doing exactly what Sarah expected. They were studying humanity's defenses. They were mapping strategic locations. They were looking for weaknesses to exploit when the time came. But they were also being studied. Dr. Ming, now fully aware of the deception, had been tasked with analyzing everything the ambassador revealed about hegemony technology and society. Every casual comment, every diplomatic document, every piece of data was collected and examined. "The hegemony is more fragile than they appear," reported during a secret meeting. "The 12 lords are constantly competing with each other. The different species have deep resentments. The Dominion has held power but their position is weaker than it has ever been." "Can we exploit that?" Sarah asked. "Potentially. If we can identify the right pressure points, we might be able to turn the hegemony against itself, make them too busy fighting each other to threaten us. That is a dangerous game. If it fails, we would face a unified enemy that knows we tried to manipulate them." "True, but it might be our best option for long-term survival. We cannot fight the entire hegemony forever. Eventually, we need to change the balance of power." Sarah nodded. "Keep studying. Find those pressure points. When the time comes, we need to be ready." 6 months after the peace treaty was signed, the first crack appeared in the facade. A human cargo ship disappeared near the edge of the solar system. The hegemony, any involvement. They expressed concern and offered to help investigate, but Sarah's intelligence network told a different story. The ship had been taken by not officially of course, they had used intermediaries, pirates they secretly funded. They wanted to examine human technology up close. They wanted to find weaknesses. Sarah did not reveal what she knew. Instead, she used the incident as an excuse to enhance patrols near the solar system's borders. More ships, more sensors, a defensive perimeter. 2 months later, another incident. This time, a research station detected strange readings from deep space. Someone was scanning the solar system with advanced sensors. Someone was mapping everything. Again, the hegemony involvement. Again, Sarah quietly increased defenses. The pattern continued. Small provocations, mysterious incidents, always deniable, always explained away. But each one revealed a little more about the hegemony's true intentions. By the end of the first year of peace, Sarah had accumulated enough evidence to prove that the hegemony was preparing for war, but she did not reveal it. Not yet. The preparations were not complete. Humanity needed more time. And then everything changed. It started with a routine patrol near Jupiter. A human destroyer detected an anomaly in one of the planet's moons. Something was hidden beneath the surface. Something that should not have been there. The patrol commander sent a probe to investigate. What it found explanation. There was a structure buried beneath the ice of Europa, not a hegemony structure, not a human structure, something far older, something that predated both civilizations. An architect facility. Sarah received the report and immediately locked down all information about the discovery. Only a handful of people knew what had been found. It had to stay that way. "Arya, what can you tell me about this facility?" Sarah asked as she studied the probe's images. "Cross-referencing with our records. The design matches architect construction patterns. However, this facility does not appear in any of our databases. It was not part of the original gift to humanity. So there were things the architects kept secret even from their chosen heirs." "It appears so. Commander, the facility seems to be intact. If we could access it, we might discover technologies even more advanced than what we currently possess." Sarah felt a mixture of excitement and dread. More advanced technology could change everything. It could give humanity an unbeatable advantage. But it could also attract attention they were not ready to handle. What about the hegemony? Could they have detected the same anomaly? Unknown. Their sensors are not as sophisticated as ours, but they have been actively scanning our system. It is possible they will eventually find it. Then we need to get there first, quietly, without anyone knowing. Sarah assembled a team in secret to analyze the technology. Lieutenant Tours for security, Doctor for scientific documentation, and Michael because she trusted him more than anyone else alive. They traveled to Europa aboard a small shuttle, officially listed as a routine supply mission. The facility was located beneath 3 kilometers of ice, accessible only through a fissure that the probe had mapped. What they found inside changed everything. The facility was vast, stretching for kilometers beneath Europa's frozen surface. It was perfectly preserved, as if the architects had left only yesterday. Strange lights activated as they entered, responding to their presence. "This is incredible," whispered. "The technology here, it is generations beyond what we have on the Argonaut." "It is also dangerous," Michael observed. "Look at these markings. These are warning symbols. Whatever this place was built for, the architects did not want it used casually." They explored deeper into the facility, documenting everything. And at the center, they found the purpose of it all. A weapon, or rather, the plans for a weapon, something the architects had designed but never built. The records called it the convergence engine. It was meant to be used only as a last resort, against an enemy that threatened the fabric of reality itself. "What does it do?" Sarah asked. Arya's voice came through their communication devices. "Based on these specifications, the convergence engine manipulates the fundamental forces of the universe. It could be used to seal entire regions of space, making them permanently inaccessible, or it could be used more aggressively to collapse those regions entirely." "You mean destroy them?" "Effectively. The records indicate that the architects considered this technology too dangerous to deploy. They built this facility to preserve the knowledge without acting on it." Sarah stared at the holographic plans floating before her. This was power beyond anything she had imagined, power to reshape the galaxy, power that no species should possess. "We cannot let the hegemony find this," she said. "We cannot let anyone find this," Michael replied, "including us. Sarah, this technology, if we used it, would we be any better than the enemies we are fighting?" It was a question Sarah could not answer. They spent days cataloging the facility's contents. Most of it was too advanced to understand immediately. It would take years of study to unlock its secrets. But the convergence engine plans were clear enough. The architects had made sure that part was accessible. When they returned to Earth, Sarah made a decision. She told only Secretary General about the discovery. The convergence engine would remain a secret within a secret, a weapon of absolutely last resort. But even as she made that decision, she knew something had changed. The universe was bigger and more dangerous than she had realized. The war with the hegemony was important, but it was not the only threat humanity might face. The architects had built that weapon for a reason. They had expected to need it, and that meant there were dangers out there that even they had feared. Humanity was stepping onto a larger stage, and the question now was whether they were ready for what that stage held. Back on Earth, Ambassador continued her diplomatic mission, unaware of what had been found beneath Europa's ice. The hegemony continued their secret preparations, unaware that humanity was preparing just as quietly. The peace held, but everyone knew it was only a matter of time before the truth could no longer be hidden. And when that moment came, the universe would learn what humanity was truly capable of. Sarah stood aboard the Argonaut, watching Earth turn slowly in the viewport. Her home, her people, everything she had fought to protect. "The storm is coming," she said quietly. "Yes," Arya replied, "but perhaps for the first time we are ready for it." Sarah was not sure about that, but she was sure of one thing. Whatever happened next, humanity would face it together, and that was worth more than all the technology in the universe. The peace lasted 18 months, 18 months of smiles and handshakes and treaties, 18 months of humanity rebuilding while pretending to trust, 18 months of the hegemony studying and planning and preparing. It ended on a Tuesday. Sarah Vance was in her quarters when Arya's voice cut through the silence. "Commander, we have a situation. Multiple hyperspace signatures detected at the edge of the solar system." Sarah was already moving before the AI finished speaking. "How many?" "Initial count shows 800 vessels. Updated count, 1,000. Commander, the count continues to rise." By the time Sarah reached the Argonaut's bridge, the tactical display showed the full scope of what was coming. 1,500 warships had emerged from hyperspace. They were not coming from hegemony space. They were coming from all directions at once. The enemy had positioned their fleet in advance, hiding in deep space, waiting for the signal to strike. "They were planning this from the beginning," Michael said. His voice was tight with anger. "The peace was a lie, every moment of it." "We knew that," Sarah replied. "We just hoped we would have more time." Admiral's face appeared on the communication screen. He looked old and tired, but his eyes were sharp. "Commander Vance, I assume you have seen the enemy fleet." "I have seen it. The hegemony brought 3 times the force they sent last time. They are not making the same mistake twice." "Can we defeat them, your ships combined with our fleet?" Sarah considered the question carefully. Over the past 18 months, humanity had built 12 new ships using architect technology. Combined with the original 13, that gave them a fleet of 25 advanced warships. The Earth Defense Force had expanded to 90 conventional vessels. Against 1,500 enemy ships, it would be the most unbalanced battle in human history. "We can hurt them," Sarah said finally. "We can hurt them badly, but I will not lie to you, Admiral. This will be the hardest fight we have ever faced." "Then we make it count. Whatever happens, we make sure they remember this day." All across the solar system, humanity prepared for war. Defense platforms activated. Civilian ships fled to protected zones. The newly constructed fleet emerged from hidden bases and joined formation with the Argonaut. 25 ships that represented humanity's greatest achievement, surrounded by 90 conventional warships whose crews knew they were outmatched but refused to run. 115 ships against 1,500. On Earth, Secretary General addressed the world. Her voice was calm despite the fear she must have felt. Citizens of Earth, the hegemony has broken its promise of peace. They have sent a fleet to destroy us, but we are not the same species they fought 18 months ago. We have learned the truth about who we are. We have built new ships. We have prepared for this day, and we will not go quietly. In homes and offices and public squares, humanity listened. Some prayed, some cried, but many felt something else, a strange pride, a defiance they did not fully understand. The truth about their heritage had changed them. They knew now that they were descendants of greatness. They were ready to prove it. The hegemony fleet advanced slowly and carefully. High Admiral was no longer in command. He had been executed after his failure 18 months ago. The new commander was Fleet Master of the species. He was methodical and cautious. He would not underestimate humans the way he had. All ships will maintain formation, ordered. We advance as one. No individual attacks, no heroics. We crush them through overwhelming force. His tactical officer acknowledged the command. Fleet Master, human vessels are forming a defensive line near the third planet. They appear to have approximately 100 ships. 100 against 1,500. The mathematics are simple. Begin the final approach. The two fleets faced each other across the void. Humans on one side, aliens on the other. The fate of a civilization hung in the balance. Sarah stood on the bridge of the Argonaut and addressed her fleet. All ships, this is Commander Vance. You all know what we are facing. You all know the odds, but I want to remind you of something. 300 years ago, our ancestors faced an enemy just as powerful. They won. Not because they had more ships, not because they were luckier. They won because they refused to accept defeat. They found a way when there was no way. That is who we are. That is what humanity does. Today, we prove that again. She nodded to Tors. Weapons hot, all ships. The hegemony fleet came within range. Energy beams and missiles streaked across space. The battle for Earth had begun. The first hour was chaos. Ships exploded on both sides. The human fleet, guided by architect technology, fought with precision and power that the hegemony had not anticipated. Resonance beams tore through enemy shields. Crystalline engines allowed human ships to dance around incoming fire. Every human vessel fought like 10 of the enemy. But the numbers were relentless. For every hegemony ship destroyed, 2 more took its place. The human conventional fleet took the worst of it. Destroyer after destroyer fell, their crews fighting to the last moment. We have lost 30 ships, Michael reported. The conventional fleet is being torn apart. Sarah watched her tactical display with grim determination. The plan was working, but the cost was terrible. They needed more time. They needed the enemy to commit fully to the battle. Fall back, she ordered. All ships fall back toward Earth. Draw them in. The human fleet retreated, fighting as they went. The hegemony pursued, sensing victory. Fleet Master allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. They are running. Increase pursuit speed. Do not let them reach their planet. His tactical officer hesitated. Fleet Master, their advanced ships are falling back in perfect order. This does not look like a retreat. It looks like... Like what? Like a trap. His confidence wavered, but they had come too far to stop now. The humans were clearly losing. Their conventional fleet was almost destroyed. Victory was within reach. Continue the pursuit, all ships. The hegemony fleet surged forward, hungry for the kill. They did not notice the energy signatures building beneath the ice of several moons. They did not see the defense platforms coming online around Earth. They did not realize that the retreat was leading them exactly where Sarah wanted them. Now, Sarah said. The trap closed. The Genesis cannons fired. Not one, but three. Hidden stations on Luna, Europa, and Titan unleashed their payloads simultaneously. The massive pulses of energy converged on the hegemony fleet from three directions at once. 1,200 enemy ships went dark instantly. Their weapons stopped. Their shields fell. Their engines died. In a single moment, the most powerful fleet the hegemony had ever assembled became a drifting graveyard. Only 300 ships at the rear of the formation escaped the pulses. They were too far away, outside the effective range, but they were still enough to destroy the battered human fleet. Fleet Master stared at his displays in horror. 1,200 ships disabled. The greatest disaster in hegemony military history, and the humans were not finished. The surviving human ships turned and attacked. 25 advanced vessels plus 60 conventional survivors against 300 panicking enemy ships. The odds had finally shifted. All ships, this is Commander Vance. No retreat, no mercy, finish them. The humans fought with fury born of desperation. The hegemony ships, demoralized and disorganized, could not mount an effective defense. One by one they fell. Some tried to flee. None escaped. When it was over, the space around Earth was filled with wreckage. Human and alien ships tumbled together in the cold void. But the hegemony fleet was gone. Destroyed or disabled, every single ship. On the bridge of the Argonaut, Sarah allowed herself to breathe. Arya status report. Human casualties are significant. We have lost 47 ships, including 39 conventional vessels. Approximately 4,000 personnel killed in action. However, the hegemony fleet has been completely neutralized. Earth is secure. 4,000 dead. Sarah closed her eyes and let the weight of that number settle on her shoulders. 4,000 people who would never go home. 4,000 families who would receive the worst news of their lives. But billions had been saved. Earth would survive. Humanity would continue. Open a channel to all surviving ships, Sarah said. Channel open. This is Commander Vance to the fleet. The battle is over. The hegemony has been defeated. I know the cost has been terrible. I know we have lost friends and comrades, but I want you to understand what you have achieved today. You have proven that humanity cannot be destroyed. You have shown the universe that we will fight for our home no matter the odds. Be proud. Be proud of who you are and what you have done. The fallen would be proud of you. Across the solar system, survivors wept and cheered and held each other. They had done the impossible. They had faced extinction and won. On Earth, the celebration lasted for days. People danced in the streets. They embraced strangers. They looked up at the stars with new eyes, knowing that they had earned their place among them. But Sarah knew the war was not truly over. The hegemony had lost their fleet, but their civilization remained. The 12 lords would be meeting right now, trying to understand what had happened, trying to decide what to do next. She needed to give them something to think about. 1 week after the battle, Sarah traveled to Europa. She went alone, accompanied only by Arya. The architect facility waited beneath the ice, unchanged since her first visit. The convergence engine plans still floated in the central chamber, the weapon that could seal or destroy entire regions of space, the weapon the architects had built but never used. Sarah stood before those plans for a long time. Arya, can we broadcast a signal that will reach hegemony space? Yes, it would take approximately 2 weeks to arrive. Record the following message. She straightened her shoulders and looked directly at the recording device. This message is for the 12 lords of the hegemony. My name is Sarah Vance. I am the commander of Earth's defense forces. You have now sent 2 fleets to destroy humanity. Both have failed. I am here to tell you that there will not be a third chance. She gestured to the plans behind her. What you see here is called the convergence engine. It is architect technology, more advanced than anything humanity has shown you before. It has the power to seal regions of space permanently. to make entire systems inaccessible forever. I want you to understand what that means." Her voice hardened. "If the hegemony ever attacks Earth again, we will use this technology. We will seal your home systems. We will cut you off from the rest of the galaxy. You will be trapped, isolated, unable to threaten anyone ever again. This is not a bluff. This is not a negotiation. This is a promise." She stepped closer to the camera. "But I am also offering you a choice. Leave us alone. Accept that humanity is not your enemy. Trade with us. Learn from us. Grow with us. The universe is big enough for all of us. We do not have to be enemies. The choice is yours, but choose carefully, because we are the heirs of the architects. We have their knowledge. We have their technology. And we have something they never had. We have survived everything the universe has thrown at us, and we are still here. Think about that before you send another fleet." She ended the recording. Arya sended. "Message sent, Commander. It will reach hegemony space in 13 days. Sarah looked around the ancient facility one more time. The architects had built this place millions of years ago. They had preserved their most dangerous technology here. Hopping it would never be needed. Now it had served its purpose, not as a weapon, but as a warning, a promise that humanity would never be helpless again. She left the facility and returned to her shuttle. There was still so much work to do, ships to rebuild, crews to train, allies to find. The universe was vast and full of dangers, but it was also full of opportunities. 3 months later, the hegemony's response arrived. It came in the form of a single ship, carrying a delegation of all 12 lords. They wanted to negotiate. Not a fake peace this time, but a real one. The threat of the convergence engine had shown them that humanity could not be conquered. Their only option was coexistence. Sarah met them aboard the Argonaut. The same ship that had defeated them twice now served as the site of their surrender. Lord of the Dominion spoke for the group. His arrogance was gone, replaced by grudging respect. "We underestimated your species, Commander. We assumed you were primitives who had stumbled upon architect technology. We were wrong. You are something more, something the galaxy has not seen in millions of years." "And what is that?" Sarah asked. "Survivors, adapters. You take what the universe throws at you and find a way to win. The architects chose well when they selected humanity as their heirs." The negotiations took weeks. In the end, a true peace was established. The hegemony would recognize human sovereignty over the solar system. Trade routes would be opened. Technology would be shared. For the first time in history, humanity had a place at the galactic table. But Sarah knew that peace was fragile. The hegemony feared humanity now, and fear could easily turn to hatred. There would be challenges ahead. There would be enemies who did not sign treaties. The universe was not a safe place. Still, humanity had proven something important. They had shown that they could stand against any threat. They had shown that the fire of their ancestors still burned bright. The Argonaut remained in service, joined by a growing fleet of new ships. The ancient frigate that had hidden among museum pieces became the flagship of Earth's new navy. Its crew, the guardians who had slept for 300 years, became teachers and advisors, passing their knowledge to the next generation. Sarah Vance never stopped watching the stars. She knew there were other dangers out there. The architects had feared something powerful enough to require the convergence engine. Someday, humanity might face that same threat. But when that day came, they would be ready. On the anniversary of the battle, Sarah stood before a memorial that had been built to honor the fallen. 4,000 names were carved into black stone, shining in the sunlight. 4,000 lives given so that billions could survive. Admiral stood beside her. He had retired from active duty, but he still came to pay his respects. "Do you think it was worth it?" he asked quietly. "All the secrets, all the deception, all the death?" Sarah considered the question for a long time. I think survival is always worth fighting for, she said finally. The architects understood that. They gave us their legacy because they believed we were worth saving. Our ancestors understood it too. They hid the truth to protect us, even if their methods were wrong. And the people who died in these battles understood it. They gave their lives so that humanity could have a future. She looked up at the sky, where stars were beginning to appear as evening fell. We are part of something bigger now. Not just one species on one planet, but members of a galactic community. Heirs to the greatest civilization that ever existed. That is what they died for. That is what we have to live up to. Nodded slowly. And the hegemony, do you really think the peace will last? Sarah smiled. It was a smile that had seen too much to be entirely optimistic, but still held hope. Maybe, maybe not, but if it does not last, we will be ready. We have learned too much to go back to being blind. We have grown too strong to be victims. Whatever comes next, humanity will face it together. She placed her hand on the memorial, feeling the names of the fallen beneath her fingers. And we will win, because that is what we do. That is who we are. The universe tried to delete us and we refused to disappear. The hegemony sent 500 ships, then 1,500, and we broke them both times. We are humanity. We are the children of the architects. We are survivors. She turned away from the memorial and walked toward the future. Behind her, the stars burned bright, no longer cold and distant. They were waiting, full of danger and wonder and possibility, full of stories yet to be written. And humanity was ready to write them. The ancient frigate had made its presence known. The universe would never forget.